Good evening, and thank you for attending this presentation on the electrification of the car industry, the rise, fall, and resurgence of electric vehicles. My name is Christopher Tuller. To start off, the creation of electric vehicles started in the second half of the 19th century when French and English inventors built some of the first practical electric vehicles. By 1900, the electric vehicles were in their heyday, accounting for about a third of all vehicles on the road. During that time, the next 10 years, they continued to show strong sales, especially when compared to steam engine vehicles. For example, Ferdinand Porsche produced the first electric vehicle of the company's name, called the P1, in 1898. The first disruption to electric vehicles was in 1908 when the Model T made by Ford, because of how cheap it was. At the 1912, the price of the vehicle was about $650. Made it very, very accessible to most of the population. By the 1920s, the U.S. road system and structure was a lot better, and they were connecting a lot more cities rather than only trains. Therefore, they required vehicles that had a more autonomous range and a higher range of distance. Electric vehicles at the time would not have been sufficient for it. Also, the discovery of crude oil in Texas made the refineries of gas become really, really cheap and very, very available. The second disruption occurred in the industry happened to, this time, gasoline vehicles. Over the next 30 years, electric vehicles basically went out and into dark ages. There was very, very little advancement, mainly due to the cheapness and the abundant gasoline all over the world, not only in the U.S. However, in the 60s and 70s, due to soaring prices in oil and gasoline shortages, especially peaking in 1973 with the Arab oil embargo, there was a crisis and a peak in prices for crude oil and refined gasoline. This led to a less dependency on foreign oil policy in the U.S. They created and started investing in within the U.S. to make the country less dependent on foreign oil. In the 1990s, also, there was the Clean Air Act Amendment and the 1992 Energy Policy Act, which were basically environmental concerns on emissions. And this again sparked more interest in electric vehicles due to the globalization and the concern for global environment policies. The reemergence of electric vehicles was started off by Toyota and its Prius, released worldwide in 2000, created back in 1997, however, for Japan. In 2006, we see a groundbreaking company, brand new company to the market, enter the market of vehicles called Tesla Motors. And in 2010, Tesla received $465 million loan from the Department of Energy's Loan Programs Office, a loan which it repaid 9 years earlier. My apologies, a loan that they repaid in full 9 years early, in other words, before their due date. In 2010, Chevrolet and Nissan created both the hybrid and electric vehicles known as EVs, with the Volt and the Nissan Leaf. So by 1997, they had 1 vehicles, and by 2010, they already had about 4 vehicles available to the U.S. market. The initial R&D investment by Tesla is significantly higher than others around the world, including BMW, Daimler, Ford, Volkswagen, and General Motors, some of our major car companies within the U.S. The initial investment in groundbreaking research and development show how leading companies have been able to reach the top of the industry by causing waves of disruption, especially when you talk about Tesla. As you can see in the graph, there's a very, very significant gap between initial investment of Tesla and the remaining companies. The chasers trying to overtake leading manufacturing companies. The amount of investment shown in the graph can be used to determine how many companies, which companies are emerging in the electrical vehicle environment. The gap in research and development expenditure between Volkswagen and other companies can determine the commitment of Volkswagen to be the next wave of disruption. If we look at Volkswagen, the amount of technology they are investing in their vehicles and the amount of money they are using to invest in their vehicles, it can be said that they are the next wave of disruption. They could be, more likely saying, the next wave of disruption, not only because of their electric vehicles, but also because of the revolution in technology, such as ProPilot, autopilot, auto parking, and other technologies they are investing in, not only electrification, but mainly how they are expending and expanding their investment in long-range batteries for their electric vehicles. This implies that companies such as Volkswagen and other companies are heavily investing in trying to overtake Tesla, Nissan. If we compare the market share between 2017 and 2018, we will see an increase in Tesla's 3 models and a very, very heavy decrease in Tesla's Prius HEV vehicles, as well as other companies. Losing the top position, Tesla initially had the highest initial investment in R&D and is still at the top of the market share. However, Tesla has the least amount of current R&D investment. Volkswagen has the highest expenditure budget for R&D, and the tendency is for Tesla to be overtaken by Volkswagen. Lost in the package, Toyota, leading a company due to groundbreaking transformation and initial release for electric vehicles. However, due to the lack of investment, its loss of space in now is an average investiture in R&Ds for electric vehicles. And the prediction for the market is that Toyota will continue to lose market due to the comparatively indifferent investment if the trend is maintained, and other companies will take over, maybe Volkswagen. As we know, Tesla is still currently at the top, but it might not stay at the top for very long. It depends on the investment companies are willing to make for becoming the disruptive company in the industry of electric vehicles. This is a bibliography, and thank you so much for your attention. I hope you have a good evening.